Okay, so I was going to talk a little bit about one of the recent pieces I've been doing. I've been working on a whole series that's inspired by looking at water and light and reflections in the landscape. And they come from a whole load of drawings and studies that I've done during lockdown, including some of these, which are from various very local walks, some of them in wetland areas and some of them in areas where we've had flooding or very wet fields and lots of reeds, and kind of the way that the water lying on the landscape creates interesting shapes and also just reflections coming across. That's really what I've been interested in and I've been working on. So there's a whole series of paintings that have this kind of theme running through them. So my process is that the walk is really the starting point, and then I'm making kind of sketches like these, which really help me to get going, and then I'm moving on to painting from these. So these are some of the paintings that I do as kind of starting points, and I never work direct from photographs. I always work really from paintings like this. So I take photographs, but I kind of use those as color reference. And almost the act of taking the photograph fixes the scene in my head, and so I can then come home and start kind of working in my sketchbooks, and that's how the process goes, rather than any kind of direct link. So they're never direct copies of anything. So I thought I'd pick out one particular one. So this study here has quite vibrant colour. It is very shorthand. It's an area where this foreground is full of long grasses and reeds, and then there's water kind of emerging across the landscape, which is quite dark in the sort of middle to distant ground, and then the sky sort of all blended in, really. So that's the sort of idea I wanted to create. So that's my starting point, and then this painting underneath is the piece that I did from that study. And the way I build it up is in lots and lots of layers. This has probably got, it might well have 20 to 30 layers on it. It's got a huge amount of textural detail and linear detail in it. So the basics are similar to in here, in this study, in the blocking out of the colour. So I began by blocking out the kind of key colours in the painting, and then I build up all the details in glazes and also in sgraffito marks, scraping through. So for instance here, I really wanted to suggest the movement of the reeds as they're kind of caught by the wind and the weather. So there's lots of directional marks in here. So they're hinting at it, but I didn't want it to be too specific, too descriptive. It needed to give a feel of it, but without it being a very sort of literal thing. And this area of light through here represents one of the areas of water that was sort of seeping through the landscape close by. And I was quite interested in the idea of the water and the sky and so on kind of blending into the landscape. So the one thing melds into another, and you're not really quite sure where one begins and the other one ends. So this painting is finished now, and it's called Aaru, which means field of reeds, and that's a bit of background to it. I hope you like it.